Hey folks, Mr. Dell here. We are looking at a problem that requires the Pythagorean Theorem. So I'm taking this from CPM's course 3, and this is the closure questions for chapter 9, closure 9-157. So it says determine the length of side x, give the answer in radical form and as a decimal. So we'll talk through what this means, radical form and as a decimal. But first, let's solve for x. So what we see is a right triangle, right? I know it's a right triangle because it's got that little box in the corner. So when you have a right triangle, this is when you can use Pythagorean theorem, which tells me that if I take a leg and I square it and I add it to the other leg, so leg 1, leg 2, and I square it, okay? And that would equal the same thing as the hypotenuse squared. So take the leg and square it, take another leg and square it, or that's one way of writing the Pythagorean theorem. These are the legs, right? Where the 90 degree is formed, that's the legs. Leg squared plus leg squared equals hypotenuse squared. Or it's known as a squared plus b squared equals c squared. And that's if we label our sides A, B, and C, right? The legs are A, B, the hypotenuse is C. So if I'm doing my math, I'll just put in the numbers. So it's 7 squared plus x squared, that's what I don't know is my x, equals 15 squared. So this is 49. 7 squared, remember 7 times 7, 49, plus x squared equals 15 times 15 is 225. So if I'm solving this equation for x, I would subtract 49 from both sides. So that gives me now, I'm going to just bring this over here. X squared is equal to, let's see, if I subtract those, I get 179, 176. Okay, so 176 is what x squared is. So if that's what x squared is, x would equal what? The square root of 176. The opposite of squared is square root. So this right here is considered radical form. Radical form includes the square root. That's what that means when they say radical form. It's the square root with whatever number underneath it. And then as a decimal, so this is radical form right here. Okay, that's the radical form. And then decimal form would be taking this and approximating it, either using a calculator if you had it or approximation. Remember, with approximation, we can do those. If I know that the square root, I can tell you the square root of 144 is equal to 12. The square root of 169 is equal to 13. So let's see. Okay, so the next one would be the square root of 196 is equal to 14. So I know my perfect squares, 144 perfect square, 169 a perfect square, 196 perfect square. So if I look where this is, 176 is in between the 196 and the 169, and it's closer to 169. So I could say that my answer would be approximately maybe 13.2 based on using that type of approximation. Okay. Or we could use our calculator and use the square root key and get an approximation. So this would be considered decimal form. Okay, decimal form. So you got your two answers, radical form and decimal form. All right, there we go.